It was a small town forgotten by time, nestled in the heart of the countryside. The kind of place where dirt roads and simple wooden houses seemed to hold ancestral secrets. It was there that, in a casual conversation by a wood-burning stove, I first heard about the sinister light that lit up in the middle of the woods. All the residents seemed to know this story, as if it had been passed down from generation to generation, with every detail narrated with frightening precision. They said that the light, nicknamed the Eye of the Night, or something like that, as the exact name escapes me now, appeared unexpectedly, shining with an almost supernatural intensity. According to them, this light seemed to have its own intelligence, as if it were watching, waiting. Many had already tried to unravel the mystery, venturing into the woods in an attempt to locate its origin. But, invariably, the light would go out as soon as someone approached, only to reappear in another part of the forest, like a macabre game of hide and seek. At first, I thought the residents were just trying to scare outsiders with their local legends. But the way they spoke, with wide eyes and hushed voices, made me doubt this first impression. Each account was laden with details, creating a vivid and disturbing image in my mind. It was hard not to feel a shiver down my spine when they described the light cutting through the silent darkness of the woods. Despite all these stories, life went on in the small town, and I gradually put this legend aside, treating it as just another story to be told around the campfire. But, as I would later discover, some mysteries have the strange ability to infiltrate reality when we least expect it. It was on one of those nights, while I was walking home alone from a party, that the unexpected happened. Days passed, and immersed in the bucolic tranquility of that little town, the story of the mysterious light faded from my mind. The simple daily life, idle chats with the locals, and the starry nights eventually distracted me. Until one random night, returning from a party in the middle of the night, fate decided to play a trick on me. I was alone, riding my motorcycle along the dirt road that cut through the region. The earlier rain had turned the path into a treacherous mire, and the darkness was broken only by the motorcycle's headlight. Without warning, the front wheel slid, and I hit the ground with a dull thud. The mud cushioned the fall, but I was disoriented for a few seconds. I got up, stumbling, trying to understand what had happened. Then I saw it. About 50 meters away, in the middle of nowhere, there it was, the light. The very light I had heard so much about was now shining before my incredulous eyes. It was a surreal sight. It looked like a circular beacon, with an almost hypnotic intensity, illuminating the dense surrounding brush. The road was deserted, not a soul in sight, just the oppressive silence of the night. I stared at that light, unable to look away, as if it had a magnetic power over me. It was a light that seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, cutting through the darkness abruptly and inexplicably. My heart raced, and a wave of adrenaline surged through me. I mounted the motorcycle as quickly as I could, feeling the panic take over. I sped off, trying to escape that disturbing vision. Further ahead, I looked back and the light had vanished, leaving only darkness again. What was that? A hallucination caused by the fall? Or something more sinister lurking in the shadows? The fear was palpable, and the curiosity only grew. Even so, I couldn't stop thinking about the other accounts I had heard in the town, each more terrifying than the last, all involving that mysterious light. And it was precisely these thoughts that accompanied me when, on another day, at dusk, I began to hear whispers about something even more disturbing that was about to happen. Still with my heart racing from the surreal experience, I continued on my way, trying to push the image of that disturbing light out of my mind. But no matter how hard I tried, the memory kept haunting me. The deserted road and the oppressive silence of the night were the perfect setting for any kind of macabre fantasy my mind wanted to create. As I progressed, The darkness seemed to swallow everything around me. The motorcycle's headlight illuminated only a few meters ahead, creating dancing shadows that seemed to come to life. Every noise, every subtle movement of the trees was amplified by the fear that now accompanied me. Suddenly, the motorcycle's headlight flickered and went out, leaving me in complete darkness. Panic took over. I tried to restart it, but the motorcycle wouldn't respond. The feeling of being watched was inescapable. Then, as if obeying an invisible command, the mysterious light reappeared, this time closer, illuminating the surrounding brush with an almost supernatural intensity. It was as if the light were alive, pulsing, breathing. It seemed to move with its own intelligence, advancing and retreating as if it were studying me. My mind raced with 1,000 theories, but none made sense. There, in the middle of the darkness and isolated from the world, the light was the only thing that existed. Fear was now a constant companion, gripping my chest with icy claws. I knew I needed to get out of there, but the motorcycle wasn't cooperating. Each second felt like an eternity, and the light continued its hypnotic dance, holding my gaze. And then, without warning, it went out again, plunging everything into even deeper darkness. The silence was absolute, broken only by the distant sound of a river flowing. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Finally, the motorcycle responded and the headlight came back on, illuminating the path ahead. I accelerated, determined to leave that nightmare behind. But even as the motorcycle's light cut through the darkness, I knew that experience would mark me forever. And so, still trying to understand what had happened, I moved forward, aware that this wouldn't be the last time I would face the inexplicable. It was then, days later, that while in town, I heard accounts from other residents who seemed to share the same anguish and mystery, each story more intriguing than the last. After that terrifying encounter with the light, the feeling of unease never left me. Even during the day, the shadows seemed longer, and the sounds of the countryside sharper, as if the very environment held sinister secrets. But at night, the fear was palpable, almost tangible. I began to avoid walking alone on those dirt roads, especially after sunset. But, as fate likes to toy with the courage of fools, one night I was forced to return home late. The company of the motorcycle, which had once been a source of freedom, now felt like a burden, a constant reminder of that inexplicable encounter. As I advanced along the muddy path, every rustle of leaves and every crack of dry branches seemed like whispers of an ancient secret. The full moon barely illuminated the trail, casting dancing shadows that toyed with my imagination. And it was in this dense atmosphere that something caught my attention once again. Suddenly, a low, almost imperceptible sound began to echo in the air. It was a hum, as if millions of invisible insects were in motion. The sound grew, coming from all directions, enveloping and disturbing. I stopped the motorcycle, trying to locate the source of that strange noise. And then I saw, through the trees, a faint light, flickering like a distant flame. My heart raced. That light, different from the one I had seen before, seemed more fragile, but equally mysterious. I was seized by an irresistible urge to get closer, as if something were pulling me towards it. I left the motorcycle and began to walk slowly, each step sinking into the mud, the hum growing around me. As I advanced, the light became clearer, revealing an indistinct figure. It was as if the light were emanating from something, or someone. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear the echo in my ears. And at that moment, I realized I was not alone. I felt a presence, something watching my every move, every breath. Curiosity mixed with fear propelled me forward. I needed to know what that light was, who or what was behind it. And then, as I crossed a small clearing, I came upon something that defied all logic. and as I tried to comprehend what my eyes were seeing, I heard a low, almost inaudible whisper coming from the midst of the woods. The voice, soft and distant, seemed to be calling my name. As I approached the flickering light, the feeling of being watched intensified. The clearing was shrouded in a deathly silence, broken only by the constant hum that now seemed to reverberate inside me. The indistinct figure ahead, the source of that light, began to take shape. It was a humanoid figure, but something about it was terribly wrong. It seemed ethereal, as if made of luminous mist, its edges constantly dissolving and reforming. The eyes, if they could be called that, were just 2 points of intense, penetrating brightness that seemed to pierce through the darkness and into my very soul. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what stood before me. Was it a supernatural manifestation? An entity from another world? Fear and curiosity mixed, creating an almost paralyzing sensation. Then the figure moved, gliding towards me without making a sound. Each step it took made the hum grow louder, as if it were an inaudible language communicating directly with my mind. Suddenly, a soft and distant voice, like a whisper on the breeze, invaded my thoughts. "You shouldn't be here," it said, laden with deep melancholy. "This place doesn't belong to you." Before I could respond, the light emanating from the figure began to pulse more intensely. The hum turned into a deafening roar, and I was overwhelmed by an overwhelming sensation of disorientation. The clearing, the figure, the light. Everything seemed to dissolve around me, as if reality itself were being torn apart. I closed my eyes, trying to hold on to any remnants of sanity. When I opened them again, I was back on the dirt road, the motorcycle beside me, the silence of the night reclaiming its dominion. The light, the figure, the hum. All had vanished, leaving only the echo of an experience that felt more like a dream than reality. With heavy breaths, I mounted the motorcycle and returned to town, trying to process what had happened. In the days that followed, I shared my experience with the locals. To my surprise, many had similar stories, each one stranger and more disturbing than the last. It was as if the town were a convergence point for the inexplicable, a place where the veils between worlds were thin and fragile. Over time, the mysterious light became part of local folklore, another legend to be told around campfires. But for me, the memory was vivid and real, a reminder that there is more between heaven and earth than we can comprehend. And so, the little town forgotten by time continued to guard its secrets, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to venture into the heart of darkness.